Meanwhile, after New York City decided to cancel that annual tribute in light honoring the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, one police union decided to step up and announce they're going to be holding their own event. Ed Mullins, he's the president of that union, of the Sergeants Benevolent Association, joining us live. Ed, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. I know the city has reversed course, but are you still going ahead with your event?
If the city is going to hold the event and do it the way it normally should be done, then we will support them in doing it. This should never have been a topic. You have to give a lot of credit to Tunnels to Towers. Frank Zilla jumped right in. He was going to read the names. And, we were going to do the lights, and we were teaming up to do it. Now I understand the governor may be involved, the city may be involved. Why now? Thank God they're doing it. We'll support them in doing it. This is much bigger than any one individual, and this should be a topic that's never forgotten. I mean, we're talking about, doing Academy Awards and all kinds of different events that are out there, and yet we cannot hold a memorial for reading the names and shining the lights. I honestly think blaming the screen actors and the Teamsters that do that is not a genuine excuse. I know a lot of those workers, they're real solid patriots, and I really believe that they would have held this themselves. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. What's important is we don't forget those individuals. There's many police officers, firefighters, and not to mention the people who were killed and murdered on that site from around the world and the rest of the Americans from this country. So what's important is we don't forget them. I'm happy to see that the governor is getting involved, and they should. The mayor should be involved, and so should the foundation.
I want to jump in, too, because when I heard this news, you've got to look at it and understand what was being asked, and it was to not have this memorial, and it's outdoors, and it takes some 40 workers to put it on. Now, if you think back for a couple of weeks ago, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio held his own event outside, painting Black Lives Matter on Fifth Avenue. Now, that took around 40 workers to do. Department of Transportation officials got out there to do it. The argument there to not do it does not exist. And I think that's why they had to walk this thing back. Then you've got this. New York Governor Cuomo, as you're saying, responding to the outrage, and he says this on Twitter. He says NYS, New York State, will provide health personnel and supervision so that September 11th Memorial can mount the tribute in light safely. I am glad that we can continue this powerful tribute to those we lost on 9/11 and to the heroism of all New Yorkers. You're now seeing that support there. Should that have been there the entire time, Ed?
Look, I honestly believe that everyone was embarrassed into doing it. And when you have a police union, and I understand firefighters were jumping in behind it, Frank Zilla immediately was doing it with reading of the names. If they're not doing it, we'll do it. But this is something that, our nation was attacked. I mean, this was a major attack on American soil, where thousands of people were murdered. And this is something we should not be playing games with. To do these other events, we allowed people to live in City Hall Park in protest. We did all kinds of things in protest. The truth of the matter is the mayor's full of beans. The governor sat silent. And at the end of the day, they have an obligation. And, if I were the governor, this wouldn't even be a conversation. This would have been happening to begin with, to provide resources and things like that. You have the power to allow this to happen. You have the power to say, get it done. And I honestly think that they've been embarrassed into doing it. I've got emails from all over the country. I have members of the electricians union that have been sending me emails saying they volunteer, stagehands, they volunteer. Emails from Wisconsin, Tennessee, Kansas, all over the country supporting the shining the lights and the reading the names. And, how could they not know this? I don't buy it. I don't think any American should buy it. And at the end of the day, there should be accountability for what happened. But I do have to give Tunnels to Towers a lot of credit. Frank Zilla did a great job stepping right up, reading the names. And we were going to team up. And I honestly believe as a result of it, that's what happened.
Embarrassing, yeah, embarrassing back to make that the right call on that. And a lot of folks would agree with you on that. I want to back up to the unrest we've seen in cities, Seattle, Chicago, New York City, by the way, seeing 62 shot, 14 killed. Of course, their attack on assault on police officers all around. And then the New York City Police Benevolent Association, the president, Pat Lynch, steps in and gives the endorsement to President Trump. I'm going to play this for you, and I'll get your reaction. Here's that.
I have 36 years on this job, 21 as the president of this fine organization. I cannot remember when we've ever endorsed for the office of President of the United States until now. That's how important this is.
That's how important this is, Pat Lynch goes on to say, and that's why he's giving the endorsement to President Trump. Does Pat Lynch have a point here, Ed?
Absolutely. I mean, the nation is under attack, and the people are, under attack. And when we look at cities, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York, why is this happening? Why do we have the violence that's occurring, the demonization of police officers? The only person we hear coming out, saying that they will address the crime issue is the president. Why is the mayor of New York City not saying we need to address this in Portland? And they're disguising anarchists and people who are committing violent crimes as peaceful protests. When we see the video, it's obvious to the naked eye, it's obvious to every American in this country, this is not a peaceful protest. These shootings in New York City and these homicides that are occurring for one reason. The elected officials are refusing to allow the police officers to do their jobs. Behind every trigger pulled is Mayor de Blasio, is Corey Johnson, are the members of city council who have changed the legislation, including the district attorneys of this city, who are failing to prosecute individuals who are being arrested for crimes. This is done for a purpose. It's done for a reason. We see people leaving the city. We see businesses leaving the city. Just on the surface, common sense approach, wouldn't a normal human being say something is wrong with this picture? And these individuals who are supposedly representing the people don't see this. They don't say anything about it. They are the ones who are responsible for the people being shot. They might as well pull the trigger themselves, because this is what's occurring. And it's going across the nation. The city of Chicago is a disgrace. The mayor's a disgrace, as is the people who are running Portland and Seattle. They are a disgrace to the population to which they're supposed to serve, and they should either step down or turn themselves in to the authorities and just plead guilty to the crimes that they're committing.
Do you think that's why Pat Lynch stepped up with the police union and gave his endorsement to President Trump, because something needs to be done?
I do. I think that the president has taken a firm stance. I think in many ways the media is distorting when the president offers to send in federal agents. They're describing it as federal troops, like he's creating a military state. This president has always been supportive of police. And the people who live in these cities, in New York City and the cities across the country, really need to wonder what their choice is coming down to, because once they get past the police, they are coming for you. Your way of life in this country is changing. And if you don't draw a line in the sand and correct this now, they will be at your doorstep. We see innocent people being beaten out in Portland. They're getting in car accidents. They're being assaulted. They walk in the streets being assaulted. The only difference between those assaults is the police standing between it. And people need to wake up. They need to get involved. They need to support the police, and they need to vote these useless elected officials out of power.
Yeah, Democrats separating themselves from policing, which is something to watch as well as this plays out. Ed Mullins joining us live. Ed, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.